At the beginning of the film, a notorious assassin, appear with a mask so lifelike it's millimeter perfect, practicing mimicking the voice of my next victim, a lowly janitor working for a big-shot corporation. My true target is Manfred Fest, a far-right German Chancellor candidate. But first, I need to get the plan smoothly underway. I leisurely walk into the Fest Corporation's lobby, bypassing their security layers with ease. I spot Elias, Manfred's spoiled son, bragging to his assistant, then sneak into the office next to his. Here, I prepare a silenced pistol and swiftly send off the assistant when she unexpectedly enters. The thud catches the attention of a guard who comes to investigate, but unfortunately for him, I send him to his maker as well. I fire shots at Elias, deliberately missing to make him panic and flee. I chase him and see him tumbling down the stairwell. I promptly shoot him twice in both feet, causing him to collapse. Elias cries and begs for his life, while I disappear immediately after. I escape to the rooftop of the building to watch the police arriving to respond. Then, I throw a few smoke grenades into the chaotic crowd below before rappelling down and melting into the night. I return to my hideout and shed the complex disguise, revealing a very young face. Afterwards, I check the wind speed for the following night and go to rest to prepare for the second part of the mission. The next morning, news of the Elias attack begins to spread, and Manfred is on his way to the hospital. Meanwhile, I begin preparing an extremely powerful long-range sniper rifle with a magnetic trigger. It turns out my hideout is right next to the hospital, where Elias is recuperating. I survey the surroundings, then fire a shot to test the scope. After recalibrating, my shot is dead on. Manfred and his entourage stopped their car in front of the hospital, which was surrounded by protesters against him and his party. I waited patiently as the convoy entered. The bodyguards were ready to escort Manfred into the building within 10 seconds. I pulled the trigger the moment Manfred stepped out of the car, hitting him as he entered the building. A magical shot. A bodyguard, using binoculars, spotted the glint from my scope, and though I had the chance, I didn't kill him, but immediately packed my things and left a primed bomb in the room. The police sped past me and stormed the hotel, ready to take me down, but they were a little too late and were blown to bits. I also drove to an underground parking lot and blew it up. Then we meet MI6 weapons expert, Bianca Pullman, as she reads news about Manfred's assassination. She goes home to her husband Paul and daughter Jasmine, who is watching an interview with tech billionaire Dag Charles, who is creating a software called River, which will expose all other billionaires' secret deals. Then they watch the news about Manfred's assassination together, and Bianca shows particular interest. The next day, Bianca reviews the reports of the shooting and is shocked to learn that the shot was taken from over 2 miles away. A meeting is called about the shooting, and Bianca begs her superior, Osita, to let her join, as sniping is her specialty. Her name is not on the list, but Bianca sneaks into the meeting anyway, where they are being briefed by German intelligence. Bianca interrupts, asking the man to confirm the distance of the shot, a shot that could have broken the world record. The size of a barrel long enough to take such a shot would not fit in a sniper's bag, unless it was a collapsible rifle, something everyone thought impossible to build due to barrel alignment issue. But Bianca knows a gunsmith named Norman Stoke who has been researching collapsible barrels for years. Osita hesitates to act on such a vague clue, but Bianca is confident she can find him. After the meeting, Bianca was asked to stay behind to speak with Isabel Kirby, a senior MI6 official who wanted to know more about Stoke. Bianca explained that Stoke was a longtime gunsmith who had fashioned the weapon used in the most recent high-profile assassination. Isabel had high expectations for Bianca and asked her not to let them down. Meanwhile, I arrived in Paris and went to a cafe, where I logged into a dark web browser to collect my payment. Here, I received an anonymous offer for a hit, but the client wanted to meet in person. I refused, but upon seeing the offer was 10 million, I broke my own rule and agreed to the meeting for 1 million. Bianca traveled to Northern Ireland to meet her contact, codenamed Sparrow. She met Sparrow inside a shop, who turned out to be a woman named Allison, and also Stoke's brother's wife. Allison said she hadn't seen Stoke in a long time, but Bianca suspected she was lying and demanded an answer. Allison then explained that she had to try and arrange a meeting with Stoke, and Bianca told her to keep in touch. I received payment for the meeting and set off. I traveled to Sweden and waited in a remote location to see my client arrive. My client, a woman named Zena, walked to a nearby cabin, and I met her there. I learned that my target was Charles, the tech billionaire. Hearing this, I quoted a price of 100 million for such a high-profile hit, and as Zena had to consult her associates, I disappeared. Bianca received no news from Allison, so she had her team dig up all information on Allison's daughter, Emma. She entered a meeting with Isabel and Osita as they discussed the Fest shooting. She explained that Allison was uncooperative, so they planned to target her daughter, who was involved with an extremist left-wing group. At one of the left-wing group's protests, Bianca spotted Emma in the crowd. She ordered the officers to arrest Emma and take her to the detention center. Bianca conducted the interrogation from another room, accusing Emma of throwing a bottle at a police officer. Emma denied this and demanded a lawyer, but this was exactly what Bianca expected and told Emma to call her mother. Emma was then thrown into a cell. I had arrived in Spain, at a giant villa. I walked in and saw a woman who turned out to be my wife, Nuria. She greeted me happily. I went into the office to speak with my client in the Fest case, who was now refusing to pay me. Emma suffered a heart attack while in detention and had to be rushed to the hospital with a worried Bianca sitting beside her. She had another heart attack while in the hospital, and despite all efforts, Emma died. Bianca was at home when she received a call from Allison, who knew that Bianca was behind Emma's arrest. Bianca denied all involvement, refusing to explain that Emma had died. She told Isabel to just get her Stokes' phone number and she would handle the rest. Bianca was called into a meeting with Isabel and Osita regarding Emma's death. They were then joined by a man, Mr. Carver, who Isabel explained was the agency's cleaner of messes. Carver wanted to ensure that MI6 could not be implicated in any way in Emma's death. The only person who knew her name was the police officer she used to interrogate Emma. Osita wanted to shut down the operation, calling Bianca's lead a wild goose chase, but Bianca explained that catching the person behind the assassination of a major political figure was far more important than Emma's death. Isabel sided with Bianca, and Carver noted that he could help keep Emma's death quiet for 24 hours. Bianca contacted Sparrow, lying that her boss had agreed to release Emma if they got Stokes' number. I was at home with my wife Nuria and my son Carlito. I went into the office alone to research Charles and look at reports on how River would change the financial landscape. I logged into the dark web where a previous client had flatly refused to pay for the Fest assassination. Nuria came over and I quickly logged out. She could tell I was brooding, and I explained that one of my clients had refused to fulfill their obligations and I had to sort it out. I also told her about a potential big contract that could allow me to spend more time with her and our son. We then see Zena meeting with her boss, Timothy Winthorpe, a powerful businessman who wants to ensure I can complete the job. They watch another interview of Charles on TV explaining what River can do, but Timothy turns off the TV, insisting that Charles needs to die before River is released. Allison is at home with her husband Larry. She is worried about Emma and wants to visit her child in England, but Larry reminds her that they don't have much money. Allison then suggests Larry contact Stokes for some money, but Larry hesitates as this could get him into trouble, but Allison insists she is out of options. I am hosting a birthday party for Carlito with Nuria's family in attendance. During the party, I receive a message asking me to log into my bank account. I was able to locate the client who sent the deposit but refused to pay. I returned to the party with my bags packed, and Nuria was very disappointed. I said goodbye to everyone and went outside to wait for a taxi, but Nuria insisted that the driver take me. Meanwhile, Bianca is reviewing footage of me in disguise and noting my every detail. Nuria drops me at the airport, but as soon as she drives away, I hop into a taxi and head straight for my vault, where I have stacks of cash and fake papers to get by. I left the bank and returned to my taxi. Meanwhile, Nuria was buying flowers for herself and was shocked to see me drive past her in a taxi. She called me, but only reached voicemail. She returned home and recounted what she had seen to her mother, who immediately assumed I was having an affair and chastised Nuria for being too trusting. Nuria didn't want to believe this and just wanted to fix what was happening. Allison soon learned that Larry had contacted Stokes and was awaiting his response. Bianca came to report her findings to Isabel and Osita. She thought their assassin was English and even a former soldier based on his skills. Furthermore, she had discovered that the backpack he carried was only sold in England and did not ship internationally. Bianca noted that she needed more time with Allison, but Isabel couldn't give her any more time and urged her to make Allison talk tomorrow. I arrived in Germany and received a call from Zena regarding her boss accepting the deal, but he requested a face-to-face meeting based on the payment amount. I agreed, but wanted them to come to me. Allison and Larry were at a bar. She told him to leave the table to get them drinks and took the opportunity to photograph Stokes' number before Larry returned. Bianca returned home, where Jasmine was preparing dinner as Paul's two sons were coming over for dinner. The boys arrived, and dinner began, But Bianca soon received a notification. It was a photograph of Stokes' number. Bianca got dressed and said goodbye to a disappointed Paul and Jasmine before leaving. She went to Latvia to track down Stokes. She met an MI6 agent named Spencer, who would be assisting her on her mission. Zena was at a restaurant when she received directions on where to meet me. She stepped out, unaware I was tailing her, in a disguise. She sat down on a park bench, and I joined her. Zena and her boss still wanted to negotiate the price. I held firm on my fee, because they were paying me to kill people. I had to figure out how to get out of it myself. Zena then offered a $20 million advance and wanted the job done within a few weeks before River launched. I didn't like being rushed, but once the money hit the account, I'd get to work. I went to my client's old bank and found the deposit had come from a company called Hellalini. I started looking into the company, and it led to a trust. Bianca and her team were closing in on Stokes' position. They parked a distance away and advanced on the cabin with guns drawn. They reached the door and Bianca called for Stokes to surrender, unaware that bombs had been set at the entrances. Bianca and her people made it inside safely, but their third operative was caught in a blast. Stokes then opened fire, shredding the second operative. Bianca continued to advance, firing at the fleeing Stokes. The two engaged in a running gunfight, but Stokes escaped under heavy fire. She then called for backup before discovering a briefcase Stokes dropped. I found a photo of the man in charge of the trust, and after looking through the photos, I recognized him as Elias Fest's close business partner, meaning Elias was the one who ordered his father's death. Bianca returned to headquarters and was chewed out by Osita, who felt she should be suspended. Bianca then revealed the briefcase she'd recovered from Stokes, which contained rifle parts, and she assembled them, explaining it was how their sniper hid his weapon. Osita and Isabel were impressed and kept Bianca on the assignment. She then left a message on Allison's cell phone as news of Emma's death broke, apologizing and offering to talk. In Spain, Nuria's mother tried to convince her that my constant traveling was unusual. She refused to listen and decided to call her husband directly. She revealed that she saw me pass her in a taxi. I tried to convince her that the person she saw was not me. Nuria was sure it was me and asked me to video call and show her around the room. Nuria was not convinced but accepted it for the time being. She wanted to come to Amsterdam, but I made another excuse. She was worried that I was living a double life and told me that the life they were living was not normal. Nuria entered my office and started searching for any evidence of my affair. She entered my closet, where she accidentally discovered a safe hidden under the floorboards. Allison and Larry arrived in England to identify Emma, but Larry was too devastated by his loss and let her go alone. Allison left the building, and Bianca was following her. The two met in a park, and Bianca apologized for her loss. Bianca still denied involvement in Emma's detention. Despite Allison's pain, Bianca demanded to know Stokes' whereabouts, threatening that she and Larry would be imprisoned for harboring a fugitive who had killed 2 MI6 agents. Allison was unfazed and walked away. Meanwhile, Larry received a call from Stokes. When Allison returned home, she could tell something was wrong. Larry was suspicious of Allison's determination to call his brother now, knowing what had happened to him. He asked for Allison's phone and was devastated to see that she had betrayed him. Allison tried to escape but was dragged back into the apartment. Carver began investigating the leak about the Stokes operation, trying to discover how he was tipped off, and began interviewing agents, including Bianca. Nuria informed her mother and Alberto about the safe hidden under the floor, but could not guess the code to open it. Alberto then suggested they find the receipt for the safe purchase and get a new code from the manufacturer. Bianca was summoned for a secret meeting with Osita regarding the leak. The only other two who knew about the operation were Bianca's colleagues, Damien and Isabel. They were unsure of who it was, so Osita warned her to keep her circle tight. That night, Nuria and her mother were reviewing the house blueprints when they found a secret room in the wall, and inside the closet, they found a large safe hidden in the wall. That night, I received my startup fee from Zena. I went to a parking lot that night and ambushed Elias Carver, dressed almost exactly like the guy, then killed him to impersonate him. Bianca received the results from hacking Stokes' mobile phone and learned he'd spoken to someone named Jackal before Fest's shooting. At Manfred Fest's funeral, Elias was returning to his car, surrounded by bodyguards and armed police. He left in another convoy when suddenly his driver shot and killed the bodyguard and sped off. It was me, now engaged in a high-speed chase to escape the pursuing guards. After a few skillful evasions, I managed to escape. When Elias realized it was me, he confessed that he was just angry that I shot him. He was now willing to pay any amount to spare his life, but I told him it was a matter of principle before shooting him dead. I planted a bomb in his car and disappeared, the bomb detonating just as the support agents arrived. Finally, Bianca received a message from Allison about a meet. Nuria and her mother watched Alberto pick the lock and finally got it open. The room turned out to be where I created my disguises, stashed my cash and weapons. All the while, I was watching them through my security cameras. Bianca was called into a meeting with German intelligence about Elias's death. They found out Elias had ordered the assassination of his father and was killed by the assassin when he didn't pay, but no one got a clear look at the man, much to Bianca's frustration. While driving, I spotted a bird. I was so focused on it that I ended up rear-ending a delivery truck. I offered to pay for the damage and even offered the man a month's salary, but the driver refused and waved a cop over to write a report. The officer asked for my papers, then asked to see inside my trunk. In the trunk, there was a bag, and the officer insisted on searching it. Inside, he found a gun, along with cash, but I quickly shot him, threw my gun at the driver, and then shot the driver dead with the cop's gun. I quickly staged the scene before speeding away. Osita called Bianca into a meeting about intercepted intel regarding me targeting another mark, but they couldn't decipher who the target was. Nuria, Alberto, and their mother were considering calling the police, but Alberto refused to report me. I called Nuria, inviting her to Paris with me because I had a lot to tell her. She agreed, but didn't reciprocate the "I love you" Gia. Bianca tracked down a sniper who used to serve in the army. He was impressed with their target's shot, but thought he'd gotten a bit lucky. He also suspected me of being British military, but he'd never heard of anyone shooting further than 2 miles. This man ran a WhatsApp group of more snipers, but when Bianca wanted details of the members, he refused to help further. Before Bianca left, the man recalled another legendary sniper from after his time named Alexander Duggan, but he had been confirmed dead over 10 years ago. Bianca still called Damien and asked him to check on this Alexander Duggan. Nuria arrived at my hotel. I confessed that I had lied to Nuria from the start and would tell her the truth. I explained that I was hired by large corporations to perform industrial espionage, where I used fake identities, bribed others, and sometimes did illegal things. I thought this would please Nuria, but she became angry because I was putting her and their sons' lives in danger. I convinced her they weren't in danger, and once I completed the last job, we could all be together. Nuria made me promise, and I promised never to lie to her again. Then, we saw Larry talking to Allison about their past, but it turned out Allison was dead in bed next to him. He then used her phone to arrange to meet Bianca that evening. Bianca arrived at the meeting point and was ambushed and attacked by Larry. She tried to escape and contact MI6's emergency line, who then connected her with Agent Vince, a longtime friend who was nearby. Bianca planned to lead Larry into an ambush and capture him, but Larry stopped chasing her and disappeared. Bianca spotted him leaving and went to confront him. Larry attacked her, but Bianca fought back until Vince arrived with backup. Despite this, Larry managed to escape by using a passing barge to cross the river. Bianca and Vince went to Larry's apartment, where they discovered Allison had died. Bianca had no new updates for Isabel, who reminded her of the mess they were trying to sort out and urged her to get results. Bianca then offered Vince a transfer to her operation as she could trust him, and Isabel agreed, but asked Bianca to update her on every detail regularly. Charles was finishing his swim at his island. He was informed by security about a hit contract on him, but Charles had anticipated this would happen. His security suggested he not attend his river premiere, but Charles and his assistant thought it was too important to cancel. Charles traveled to Estonia, where the river premiere was to be held to survey the building and its security procedures. There was a concert being held inside the venue, and I found a high vantage point right above the stage. I went up there and confirmed it was a good spot for my shot, but just then, the whole platform started to open up, throwing me off balance, barely managing to grab onto a rope to keep myself from falling to my death. Fortunately, the platform began to close back up and I was able to climb back to safety. Turns out I had lost my cell phone, but one of the staff members offered to help me find it. The staff member called my phone and I got it back. Bianca returned home, called Jasmine, but was shocked to find Larry holding a knife to her throat. Bianca quickly shot Larry in the leg, causing him to collapse. She demanded to know Stokes' whereabouts, but Larry refused to say. Bianca was about to kill him, but Jasmine stopped her. I returned to my apartment to find Zena there, and I stared at her. I didn't harm Zena, who nervously explained that her boss was very powerful and demanded that I stick to the script and not act on my own as I had with Elias. I didn't harm her and decided to follow the plan. The two of us took a boat to the city of Tallinn, where Zena offered to help me with anything I needed. I then saw a woman wearing a fake leg brace and an idea struck me. Bianca met Vince at the hospital where Larry was being held. As they were cleaning his room, Bianca began to smother Larry with his pillow. She demanded to know where his brother was, or they would hunt him down and kill him. She offered to spare Stoke if he talked, and only serve a maximum of 5 years in prison if he did. Larry still refused, so Bianca continued to torture him. I contacted Stoke, wanting to commission him to build a rifle. I asked him about the recent incident, but Stoke explained that he had a few uninvited guests and that he had dealt with it. I wanted to ensure he was safe, as I hate to take any chances, but Stoke reassured me that all was well. His only problem was that he was injured in that incident and couldn't finish on time without help. Upon hearing this, I offered to help him. Larry eventually divulged Stoke's location in Budapest, giving as many details about the place as possible but not remembering much. He also added that Stoke was the one who had revealed Bianca's location, as he knew someone in MI6. Bianca and Vince went back to MI6 to try and ascertain Stoke's hideout from those details. Bianca also realized my next target was Charles. She and Vince told Osita about this. He inquired about Stoke's location, and Bianca hesitated to tell him, but Osita told her she would need permission and logistical support, and he was the only one who could provide it unofficially. Bianca provided the location, and Osita planned to prep a team for her. I arrived in Budapest and was met by Stoke, who remarked that I was thinner than he had imagined. Bianca went to find Paul and Jasmine, who were now with his ex-wife after the incident, and she almost had a fight with Paul's ex-wife. Paul thought Bianca's work had taken over her mind, and she wasn't spending time with her family. She reminded him that in her line of work, people would die if she wasn't where she needed to be. Paul still thought that was too much for him and Jasmine to bear, and told Bianca that he no longer recognized her. Stoke and I returned to his place. I saw his array of weapons, but a military sniper rifle triggered flashbacks of my past. I explained that I wanted an all-plastic rifle with a detachable trigger, all of which had to fit inside a prosthetic walking stick. Meanwhile, Nuria wanted Alberto to fix the safe and conceal any evidence of her having entered it. She didn't know that I was watching them at that very moment. After a few hours, Stoke and I were in the process of 3D printing our plastic rifle. We took a break and sat down to talk, and we seemed to get along quite well. I asked him about his trip to Belarus, where he was attacked, and Stoke tried to brush it off, but I demanded an answer. Stoke explained that he was attacked by a black British woman with a Glock 17, and based on that, I knew it was an MI6 kidnapping team and wondered how he got away. Stoke told me about the help he received from a strange phone number, telling him to clear out and leave. I informed him that something would happen to him if he didn't hide well. Bianca located Stoke and set off immediately. Stoke and I had finished the camouflaged rifle, and we reviewed how to assemble the parts. I wanted to test it, so Stoke gave me the car keys and directions. I followed Stoke's directions to a wooded area. I hung a watermelon from a tree, and at a fair distance, I used a rope to help stabilize my rifle. I fired a few shots to adjust the scope, then a special round, which blew up the watermelon. Meanwhile, Bianca and Vince arrived in Budapest and met their team to get Stoke. I was on my way back to Stoke when I received a call from Nuria, who pretended everything was fine. As they were talking, I happened to be right behind Bianca's car. I saw them slow down at Stoke's gate and park a distance away, keeping an eye on them. Bianca and her team got ready and cut the town's power. I then contacted Stoke, warned him about the approaching team, and told him to clear out and leave. Stoke did his best to erase what he could before grabbing a gun. He heard them approaching the house and opened fire on them, but Bianca and her team stormed the room and finally apprehended Stoke. They tied him up and demanded information about who I was, but Stoke refused to say. Bianca searched a nearby bag and realized that I had indeed been there. She suspected that I would return and set her team to watch. While they waited, Bianca wanted to know who the mole was, but Stoke refused to say. She revealed that she had tortured Larry for his location and planned to lock both of them up forever. Stoke rose in anger but was suddenly shot in the head by me. Bianca's team located me and stormed in, but I jumped onto a horse and rode away. Bianca and Vince pursued by car, firing continuously. I turned into a forest, but was shot off my horse. Bianca and her team stopped at the edge of the woods. They tried to advance, but I shot a female agent's armor to warn them. Bianca almost ambushed me, but I fled with her close behind, frustrated that she couldn't hit me. I then jumped off a cliff into a river, and Bianca emptied a clip, trying to hit me. After a few minutes, I surfaced from the water, shivering from the cold. I made my way to what seemed like an abandoned warehouse for shelter and rest, but while I was asleep, I was knocked out and tied up by the owner. The next morning, the owner, Attila, came to see me, scolding me in Hungarian for trespassing on his property. I responded in English and German, but Attila did not understand. Attila decided to let me go. As I was leaving, Attila discovered my rifle. Attila pointed the gun at me and led me to his cabin. Attila then called his brother Gabi, telling him about the foreigner with the rifle he caught in his warehouse. Gabi called his handyman, Laszlo, who spoke English, to talk to me. I offered to pay everyone for my freedom. Gabi agreed and grabbed his rifle and they set off. Later they encountered some police, who told them about a shooting the previous night and that a foreigner was involved. Meanwhile, Attila offered me food, but I refused. Attila could not accept my refusal, tried to force me to eat, but I knocked him out. I packed my belongings, leaving a dead Attila inside. I tried to leave in Attila's car, but it wouldn't start. I tried another car, but just then, Gabi and Laszlo arrived. I watched as they entered the house and discovered Attila. I tried to start the car, but ended up crashing as Gabi started shooting at me. Gabi moved closer to the car, but I had disappeared. I shot Gabi from underneath the car before finishing him off. Laszlo, seeing he had no chance, simply surrendered and gave me the keys, and I took him hostage. MI6 agents were now swarming Stokes' building, collecting evidence. Bianca secretly took a coat from the scene before she was informed of bodies found on the farm. I had Laszlo drive for me. I took Laszlo's cell phone and called Nuria. I pretended to be emotional and told her I was in big trouble and might not be able to come home. Nuria asked where I was, and upon learning I was in Hungary, she wanted to know how she could help. I told her I needed something and started to tell her about the secret room in my house, but Nuria confirmed she already knew about it. It turned out Nuria and her mother were at the divorce office at her mother's suggestion, but Nuria told them they had to leave. Bianca and Vince arrived at the farm to see 2 bodies. She knew that fingerprints had been taken from the scene and would be tested. She received a call from Osita, telling her to return to London on Isabel's orders, to run a task force to take me down. Bianca refused, as I was where she was, but Osita insisted and hung up. News began to spread of an armed man named Jackal that the police were looking for. I told Laszlo I wished he hadn't shown up at the farm. Tearfully, Laszlo told me that I had the face of a good man, which brought back a memory. I told him to pull over, and Laszlo started crying, begging for his life. I refused to kill Laszlo, telling him that if he spoke to the police, my associates would find his family and kill them. Laszlo refused to talk, and I disappeared. I found my way to a cafe and struck up a conversation with Zina, who knew I was in Hungary and told me that the clients were worried, but I promised to complete the mission. I received an email from Nuria, who had landed, and gave her a hotel to meet at. Nuria soon arrived at my hotel carrying a disguise kit. I explained that there were bad guys looking for me and I needed to leave. She wanted to see me prepare the disguise, and I indulged her and transformed right in front of her. I arrived at the airport disguised as an old man in a wheelchair. Just then, Bianca and Vince were also at the airport, and I saw them as I passed by. Bianca and Vince received a call from Osita, redirecting them to Tallinn, Estonia, as Charles would be there to announce River in 4 days. I was on the plane when Bianca and Vince entered, both agents sitting in the row in front of me. The 3 of us landed in Tallinn, and I watched as the agents got into their cars. I arrived at my apartment, where I shed my disguise. There was a knock at the door, and it was 2 police officers investigating a burglary upstairs. They asked to see my ID, but the female officer was more persistent and asked for my contact number to stay in touch, even calling it to make sure. When they left, I contacted the theater employee who had helped me find my phone, named Rasmus, and asked him out for a drink. The 2 met at a bar. I introduced myself as Peter, an engineer who was only here for work. After chatting, Rasmus and I returned to his apartment, where they spent the night together. I met Zina early the next morning. I told her about Bianca and Vince and wanted Zina's people to handle them. She hoped to work with me, but I had no plans to contact her again until everything was settled. Bianca and Vince arrived at the MI6 office that Osita had set up. Bianca and Vince then worked to create a sketch of me from their brief encounter and began circulating it. Charles was informed about the assassin's arrival in Hungary and was once again urged to cancel the premiere, but Charles and his assistant wanted to maintain their image. Nuria was at home when her mother and Alberto arrived for a visit. Alberto and their mother asked Nuria for my $40,000 to buy a bar. Nuria agreed and allowed Alberto into the safe, but while Nuria and their mother were talking, Alberto stole over $40,000 and my gun, unaware that I was watching him via camera. Nuria then closed the vault without checking. I persuaded Rasmus to take me to the theater that night under the guise of admiring the architecture. Rasmus gave me his keys and I went to check the area. Bianca and the agents learned that a female officer recognized the sketch. Bianca and Vince stepped outside to walk, but at that moment a hit squad opened fire on the 2 of them. The agents returned fire, causing the car to crash. Bianca and Vince now realize there is a contract on them, but she still insists on continuing. The 2 of them and a SWAT team arrive at the apartment building where I was seen but find it empty. I return to Rasmus's apartment to collect my belongings, and the 2 of them say their goodbyes. As it turns out, it was Zena's boss, Timothy Winthorpe, who hired the hit squad and is angry they ruined his plan. I arrive at the theater for a concert and get through security with my fake walker. I then buy a lot of water and snacks before sitting down to watch the concert. When it ends, I return to the spot I had previously scouted and crawl into a tight space just above the stage. There, I prepare my rifle and sleep through the night. I have another flashback, and we see that I was actually a soldier once. I also remember the first time I met Nuria and the smile she gave me. Bianca and Vince arrive at the theater and meet Charles's head of security, Keith, and give him my drawing. Keith plans to lock down the entire building and have his men sweep the entire building. Bianca gives Keith one of my jackets for his dogs to track. I see the men talking. Keith takes Bianca and Vince to the stage where Charles will speak, and she starts looking around. The next day is the event, and I get myself ready. Keith orders a final sweep of the building. Bianca goes up to the area where I am hiding but walks right over my hiding spot. All the guests soon arrive and take their seats, and Charles gets ready. As the event begins, I emerge from my hiding place. There was a guard nearby, and I quietly killed him. I also killed another man with a sharpened credit card and took his place. Charles was introduced and rose from the stage below. He began his speech, and I simply waited for him to move from behind his bulletproof shield. As soon as I had a chance to shoot, a man rushed onto the stage with a gun, causing me to miss, and agents quickly took Charles away. I blended in with the fleeing crowd from the theater and disappeared into the streets. Rasmus, who was outside at the time, saw me leave and called out to me. I tried to ignore him, but when he caught up, I didn't hesitate to send him to his maker and left the body by the roadside. The end.